Billy, I've often said to people when they ask me what I think is that I agree with almost every argument that I've heard from agnostics, except for their conclusion, because the quality of argumentation that people use in defense of a theistic point of view is, to me, always suspect. As you've dealt with this issue, how do you see the kinds of fallacies that people who would purport to support a theistic position that they would use? What are some of the logical fallacies that people like that would employ?
When atheists say they don't believe in God, there's a very particular God that they don't believe in. And I'm really interested in that. What is the God that you don't believe in? When a theist says they believe in God, that doesn't mean all theists believe in the same God or the same concept of God. So God talk is very tricky stuff. And it's more interesting to fill in the detail about what do you mean when you use that terminology. I often use an analogy to mathematics. At one point, humans in India, in Arabia, discovered the concept of zero, discovered the concept of infinity. And there are lots of different definitions of zero and lots of different definitions of infinity. And it can mean many different things in many different contexts. But it allows, those two ideas allow us to do all kinds of really cool, amazing things in mathematics that we couldn't do otherwise. Well, God talk in our civilization is similar to that. We can't define it, and that's okay. But it allows us to have a conversation about ultimately significant issues that we couldn't otherwise have. And so I'm happy to leave it ambiguous. There are some concepts of God which I fully reject. And if you believe in God, the God of the great dictator in the sky who's micromanaging, everything in the universe, including our lives, then I fully reject that concept of God.
So you would look at some of the arguments that atheists or agnostics would use and say, for that kind of God that they're targeting, their arguments may be legitimate.
Yes, sure. But based on the definition of God, I'm not sure that that's the one that most believers have.
And what you're saying, maybe there's a whole host of a pantheon, pardon the expression, of definitions of God, and certain agnostics or atheists are shooting at different ones, but there's plenty left.
Yeah, Jack Miles has a lovely line in his book, God, a Biography, where he's talking about the book of Genesis, and he says, we rejected many gods with many personalities for a single God with multiple personality disorder. So whatever, just phenomenologically, God, the universe, whatever you want to call it, has to contain the complete totality of all of our experiences and all of our insights. And so it's a marker for the totality of everything in some sense.
But people who purport to defend a traditional Judeo-Christian theism use certain kinds of arguments.
Right.
How do you see some of those arguments? What is the God that they're pointing at, trying to affirm the existence thereof?
Here I'm going to also draw a distinction between belief and faith. So belief is about content. Mm-hmm. I believe this, the Nicene Creed or whatever. But faith is actually about doubt and uncertainty, and acting and consequentially in the face of doubt and uncertainty. And so right at the heart of religion is this amazing tension between living in the midst of uncertainty and doubt, but living courageously and consequentially. So I think that that's an interesting distinction. I would have to disassociate myself from many of my fellow Christians and Jews and Muslims and what they say and what they believe. And that's very much within the tradition itself.